welcome to a very special Christmas Eve edition of Kingdom Kickoff, aka the jolliest bunch of Chiefs-loving a-holes this side of the nut house. And I can promise you, no one's bailing on this good old-fashioned Chiefs Christmas. Look at these gentlemen's faces right here. Each and every one of you, Merry Christmas Eve to all of you, except Rich, who already was paid a visit by Chris Kringle himself yesterday in the way of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons Gasparilla Bowl victory over Missouri. I was there, 6:30 a.m. I'm back here in Missouri just in time for 7-degree weather and bone-chilling temperatures. What's up, everyone?
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas Eve.
Good morning, everybody. As you can see my background here for Christmas, I already got the bucket of coal. But that's okay because the prices of coal just keep going, so my bank account looks good. So,
Rich, if it's the last thing
there's some economy here on Christmas Eve.
We've got to get something on those bare white walls, Rich, because people are wondering. It's in the comments. Is Rich doing this show from prison? We're not sure. We can't confirm or deny.
Did we trade Brittany Griner for Rich? What's going on? Is he over there with Putin in Russia? What's happening?
I don't think they would trade me. No, they would leave me somewhere in the brig forever on that one, man, guys. But Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays and all that. And you know what? Looking for a great one today for the Chiefs to continue on. That's going to be the best Christmas gift for all of us, isn't it? For another victory day against the Seahawks.
Most certainly. What is? I want to ask the guys, what is a present that you got that you don't necessarily use, but you need to use it? Hopefully Andy Reid unwraps the running game today and uses that a little bit more than a pass game in this bitter cold weather that we have in Kansas City.
Most definitely. This game reminds me of games from the early 90s. Rich, you can attest to this. Let's get right to this game coming up in 1 hour. It's going to be cold. This is a game in the early 1990s where Joe Pendry would take his offense and he would say, we're going to get physical. The Seattle Seahawks are 31st in the NFL against the run. We're going to pound the ball. The leading receiver is either going to be Todd McNair out of the backfield or Billy Jones, the fullback. We're going to take time of possession and we're going to win ugly. It's going to be maybe 14-10 or 17-10 Chiefs. We're going to have time of possession. We're going to wear them out. We're going to take advantage of this cold weather. What do you think of that, Rich? Is that what it's going to take to win today in this Arctic blast?
Well, first of all, the cold isn't really that bad, folks. This is beautiful weather right now. Pools should be open. Margaritas should be sold right now. For Lyman, we live for days like this, folks. We could sit outside with our barbecue, and we're happy forever on days like this. So, yes, for some of those defensive linemen that would kind of corral in the corner on weather like this, we love these days. You mentioned Billy Jones and Todd McNair. I wish that Andy Reid would show some of their film because there was nobody better when they came out of the backfield on how to chip against defensive linemen. Billy Jones was a monster what he did. So those would be the type of guys. And I agree with you, Shaggy. I think right now, run game, I think last week we didn't really start with it well enough, and it proved costly right in those first couple of drives. So let's come out today, make it happen. You're going to need it in the playoffs because pass protection's not where it's at. Got to be balanced. Let's show these people instantly and get this game over with in the first quarter because I don't think the Seahawks, there's no Jacob Green or Joe Nash on that defense right now. So I'm not too worried about it.
Well, I got a little short video to share here of just how the cold is affecting the Seahawks, and this video scares me. I'll come back on the other side, see if it scares you as well. Doesn't look, they're all out there shirtless. It doesn't look like it's affecting them, and that's scaring me, Rich, should it?
Well, let's start from the beginning. First of all, hands are in some warmers, and that's not allowed. Number two, they've just had 3 cups of coffee. That'll wear off in about 10 minutes. So that's at the one it's over with. So, no, I think right now you look at Seattle's defense, I think anyways, whether it's cold or not, I think this is a team you can take advantage of physically. And the Chiefs need to play physical. I think one of the issues the last couple of weeks, they haven't been too physical when they need to be. Let's set the tempo right now in the trenches. Let's go smash mouth and make it happen because that's one aspect of our game I think we need to get better in the next couple of weeks heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. This weather, like you said, is built for linemen. This is the kind of weather where you really want to maul somebody. You really want to mush the cake in their face, for lack of a better term. But yeah, man, Andrew Wiley, this is his strength, 77. I give him a lot of flack, and I point him out because, he's not good in pass protection. We've seen it for the past several years.
Or the other tackle isn't very good at pass protection.
Hey, he got a Pro Bowl.
Brian. He's out there. He's learning. He's getting the reps. So
4 straight Pro Bowls for OBJ.
Brian, going into the playoffs, if I was any coach of any of these teams where the Chiefs are going to match up, most likely I'm thinking it's going to be the Chargers right now. The way it's looking, because the Jets, I think, did they, with their loss last night, are they officially out right now?
They're out of the picture, but they're still in the mix.
Okay, still in the mix.
Yeah, still in the mix.
Who's ever there, if I was the defensive line coach for any of those teams, and here we take a look at it, Buffalo, Baltimore, whoever it is, I would just have my guys all day long in practice just bull rush people. I would make them bull rush 50 times in practice to get them conditioned, because my left tackle will not hold up. And folks, I'm bringing one play. I always talk about the big play. You need some of those. In the very first series, MVS on the third down beats his man, turns him inside out. He's wide open for a corner route for a touchdown. Patrick can't throw the ball. Why? Because his left tackle's sitting in his lap. He's got to change his arm angle. Patrick doesn't throw the ball hard enough because he doesn't want to hit the helmet of the defense opponent, and you don't want to break his hand. So there you give up a touchdown where it should have been. That should have been a touchdown. I see this. Listen, I'm not impugning this man's integrity, but I just don't understand why the Chiefs let him back up every play on pass protection to Patrick. It just alters the throw, and it's killing our pass protection right now. That's my beef. I know it's Christmas Eve, but hopefully he changes the day for a Christmas present.
Well, there might be some help on the way, Rich. Let's take a look at who's in, who's out. I don't think McCole Hardman is up yet. Colin Saunders inactive for the Chiefs. Blake Bell active. That's your help. He should be getting some snaps today, so maybe he can help Chip and help out, kind of double tackle there with Orlando Brown. Inactive is Tyler Lockett with a broken finger. Active, Noah Fant, tight end, Kenneth Walker in that run game. If there's going to be a strong run game today, maybe the Seahawks can do that to the Chiefs, as we're talking about wanting to see that with Isaiah Pacheco and Andy Reid running the ball more against that Seahawks defense. Marquise Goodwin, also a speedster, is active for the Seahawks. So that's who's in and who's out for these teams.
Yeah, and also, too, on the other side for the Chiefs, as we talk about the rotation and defensive line, I know that Brandon Williams, Danny Shelton got finally called up, so we can see what he can do. Coming in there, you need all the help you can in the middle and continue with what we've done run defense-wise in tremendous improvement this year. Secondary continues going to need help, too, back there. But, when you watch film, we just briefly on the secondary, I hope Coach Spags just decides, let's just stay tight man. Let's play man. These guys are good when they're aggressive and they can get their hands on people and fight the fight. When they back up, whether it be zone or maybe off man, that's where the struggles take place. So hopefully they make that change going into the playoffs, because this is where these guys are best at. Let them get their hands on people and reroute receivers. That's where our secondary has better chances. You break down the film, all the time they're in trouble. It's because whether they're sitting in the zone or they're playing a soft man, they don't get in good position. They get out of position, and it ends up costing them and giving big plays over the top.
Yeah, we just talked about Orlando Brown. I think Brian mentioned he made the Pro Bowl. We've got Dan Deerdorf here, short clip. Dan Deerdorf reacting to Orlando Brown making the Pro Bowl.
What a gaffe!
What a gaffe. There it is from Dan Deerdorf. And we've got our Pro Bowlers here. Orlando Brown's a question mark, but you've got Chris Jones and Mahomes and Kelsey, obviously, Tommy Townsend, who we'll get into. Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney, and Orlando Brown are the alternates, the rest of your starters. But Orlando Brown, how did he make it? Brian, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think that is just first off, I'll be fair with Orlando Brown Jr. because he hasn't had the best year, but he's had moments where he has been pretty good. The 49ers game, the Tampa Bay game. So there are games where he can step up, to the challenge. But, man, there have been some struggles. Against Buffalo, he struggled bad.
Cincinnati,
he struggled bad. So, and those are the two games that we need in the AFC against our top contenders. But be that as it may, I think it speaks to the lack of great offensive line play in the NFL. and specifically in the AFC. Name your top tackles at what? Laramie Tunsil, my guy 71 from Cleveland. Who are the top tackles in the
Ron
AFC?
Armstead for the Dolphins.
I guess they're not that as good as they were 15, 20 years ago. And I think that's due in part to the CBA with offensive line not being able to work out with each other as they once did, not as frequently as they used to. That too. So I think that has really been a detriment to the play of offensive line. But he's a four straight Pro Bowler. Orlando Brown. He's going to have that on his contract. This is going to make him just more expensive, and I think it'll push the Chiefs away to go get somebody else.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian, there's a kid playing left tackle right now for Notre Dame who I know his father very well.
Mr. Alt.
Mr. Alt.
Let's go get him.
And he is right now ranked number 10 in the nation. I've had a chance to watch his film, and like his father, he's cat-like quickness, great balance. I wouldn't mind seeing another Alt out there. I'd like to see another Alt out there at left tackle. He might be a guy on the horizon. But you bring up a great point, Brian. I'm telling you, the spread offense that's come in has taken away the ability of these guys to put their hand on the ground and come off the ball consistently. It's all about pass protection, mirror, and they're kind of playing a little softer. That's why you're not finding as many of those tackles out there in college like you used to. It used to be dime a dozen, not that more. And there's a lot of teams that need those guys on the edge right now.
Yep.
Specifically to Orlando Brown in today's game, what are his strengths? Being a run blocker. Today's weather, let's use the strength. Let's hope that they evaluated what weather we'd be up against and what the field would be. Today's game all week long in practice, and they run the ball behind Orlando Brown, set up play action. Let's go old school, and I think we'll win this game.
Do you think Andy Reid is running the ball and Mahomes is up for MVP? He's in the lead right now.
Oh, go ahead. Throwing
the ball over, trying to get Mahomes the MVP.
Yeah. As long as the inside three of this offensive line is healthy, I know Joe Thuney, that ankle, I don't think is completely healed yet. I think that high ankle sprain, he's had that issue. And then also Trey Smith has been banged up all year. When those two are healthy next to Creed Humphrey, that inside three might be the best in the National Football League. Some moment they've played much better. Trey Smith the last couple of weeks has really come on well. So I think as long as those three play well, the integrity of the pocket, you can get by with the edges the way it is. But when the inside three struggle like they did against Cincinnati, it makes a long afternoon for Patrick. But again, what's it next week? Buffalo, Cincinnati plays, right? Yeah. Who wins that is number one. The other one, so the Chiefs are looking at, second probably in the playoffs. If they go through the first round, it's going to be either Cincinnati or Buffalo, and then on the Cincinnati and Buffalo for the AFC Championship. So it would be a challenge for the Chiefs because both teams they struggled against this year during the regular season.
Well, Shane, you are kind of our resident expert here when it comes to this topic, so I'm going to go to you. We've had Kalen Saunders, with maybe a little bit of time on his hands this week. He's inactive for the game, so maybe he doesn't really warrant a mention here. But Shane, since this is always a topic that you are able to pick up and run with, he's sort of went to battle with Chiefs fans on Twitter, maybe up there with like a Tyrann Mathieu, Anthony Hitchens type of a war he had here. What do you think of Saunders? He's had, I think, kind of a breakout year here. He's inactive today, but Saunders spending most of his time kind of going to battle with Chiefs fans this week on Twitter.
I don't know why that's even an option. He is having a good year, so I don't know who specifically upset him, because evidently they upset him enough to where he felt like he would sit and tweet publicly about some of the Chiefs fans being negative on Twitter. He came to the Chiefs in 2019, so he's in his fourth year in the league. So I think he's got a lot of growing and maturing to do. Even Chris Jones said in his press conference on Thursday for him to stay off Twitter. When you have a leader like Chris Jones come out and just say publicly when asked the question, let's just stay off Twitter. That's what you want your leaders to do. And Chris Jones stepped up as the leader and said, let's stay off Twitter. We'll have to see how that goes moving forward. I don't like it because I think Chiefs fans are going to find some sort of social media platform and get together and say positive and negative things about their team moving forward as they do every year. Chiefs fans should be happy that, or Chiefs players should be happy that Chiefs fans have some things to say about them. But overall, I don't like it, but I was glad to see Chris Jones step up as the leader of the defense and address it when he was asked about it specifically.
Yeah, and we've had a little bit of some issues here going with the social media, not only Colin Saunders, former player Dustin Colquitt, a punter, went on and said, talking about Tommy Townsend, he's an excellent punter. If you look back at the holds on the extra point, the laces are facing the sidelines, and on the missed 50-plus yarder, he pulled the ball to him at the last second, forced the ball to go to the right. He's been missing the spot all year. Here you see his made extra point, laces are facing out, miss extra point, laces are facing the sideline. Rich, what do you make of this? Tommy's come out and said, hey, Andy Reid tells us to keep it in-house, only focus on what's going on in the locker room, not even former players on social media calling us out. So what do you make of that drama?
Well, first of all, when you got Pauls like this, you don't get on Twitter because you never know what letter you're going to go ahead and push on that thing. So I don't think I'd have any time to. I agree with Chris Jones. You know, you've got to keep your focus. You don't want to give any enemy, any focus to your enemy, to your fans, anything to be used against you. It's tough enough to get a win in the National Football League. You're coming down the barrel here of a great season, 11-3. You're hoping for that first spot. So why you even take time or even focus on this, you're not even sure who's tweeting that stuff on Twitter. As we find out, I won't go political on you folks, but we're finding out on Twitter, there's not always good things going on in the background with everything and that. So keep your focus on the game. Why even get involved? Why give people maybe that don't even like you a chance, on a platform to communicate with? Play your football, because Saunders has played great this year. Against the run, he's been remarkably improved. So I just don't understand it. Where do you even have time in your day to do something like that? Not really sure.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, focusing on things that don't matter to the game, let's go to Chiefsaholic. I don't know if you've heard this story. The super Chiefs fan that was out robbing banks. He goes to every single road game and home game. Where does he come up with this money? He says managing warehouses and gambling. He's just a lucky man, and it's been gifted to him. He tells everyone to go out there and work hard, strive for greatness. I'm a graduate of K-State. Wait, no, he's not a graduate of K-State. Wait, no, he doesn't manage warehouses. He goes around robbing banks, found in Bixby, Oklahoma, robbing a teacher's credit union. They set a perimeter. They caught him. He's looking at some serious time. Rich, what do you make of this?
I actually saw this in the news and about made me go off the road driving. Where do you even begin with this nonsense? Loyal fan. Is he going to have a club in the pen? I mean, does he need a pen pal now or something? So,
are you offering?
Shocking, absolutely shocking. I guess that's why you do turn on Twitter and social networking, because you never know what story's going to be on there nowadays. So, where do you even begin with something like this? I guess maybe instead of a glass of water, I'd have put something else in my glass today to help me handle some of these things. Brian, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I know that you're focused on a lot of things. How do you feel about this type of
I think
fan support?
I think it's a deeper issue than just a guy who loves the Chiefs, as we all do. But you don't see us going around robbing banks. I think that this issue is a societal issue of people wanting to be bigger than who they currently are. They want to fake it, maybe. And I'm not saying this is specifically for Chiefsaholic, but I think this is for a lot of people going through this issue, and not just him. I think that social media has its great moments, but these are one of the moments where they're low. This is one of your lowest, because on social media, if you just take his words, you think, he's a Chiefs fan, an upstanding guy who's worked hard, as Noah just said. He went to K-State and did all this other stuff. But then off of social media, off of the metaverse, when you get into the real world, you see that people have deeper problems and bigger issues than what they put on. So praying that that all things turn out well for everybody involved, and praying that people who's going through these things with social media gets the help that they need, because especially around this time, suicide is such a common thing for some people who's feeling hopeless, who wants to be something, who wants to do things, but they don't feel like they can. And so maybe, some folks turn to that. I don't mean to go deep and go into all of that, but I think that all of that stuff coincides with each other, with social media problems and trying to put on this facade for something that you think you are, but you're really not.
Family issue as well. I think we've heard that his mom and brother have had run-ins with the law as well. So just kind of a generational thing, and someone's got to kick it and break free from that and set the right path for that family moving forward.
Did they impound the suit? Because that's the only way that I'd be sitting out at Arrowhead today is if I could borrow the wolf suit, man.
I've seen the Chewbacca suit. I've seen one of those. Have you seen the Chewbacca suit?
I've seen that. I think Juju came dressed as the Grinch today.
He did,
pretty warm. That's about the only way, man. Cold is not for me. Rich, you are old school. You're a former lineman in the NFL. You just personify what like old school football is all about. Just in the trenches, in the cold, no sleeves on, I'm sure. And a 0 degree
you just dream of days like this. I mean, this time of the year, it's about snowmobiling. It's about cross-country skiing down the slopes.
The trenches.
I mean, this is the beautiful time of the year and everything. I never understood it. You know, there's 102-degree days up at Liberty, Missouri. Nah, not really the time you want to be out in the field. Now, you stand out there and just look at people as they just kind of suffer through this weather. But to me, it's Mother Nature at its best. This equalizes everything, folks. It takes the speed out of those guys off the edge and allows you to do your thing. This is what weather is made for. Football is made for this type of weather. It isn't made for 5 degrees. So I'll take this any day of the week.
Equalizing is a good way to put it. And I want to ask you that because, you know, a lot of philosophies when it comes to the NFL kind of plays into the fact that when it is brutal like this, I think we got Cleveland playing the Saints today, and what's going to be even worse, -21, I think regular temperature. When it comes to a game like this, Chiefs Seahawks, in a game that clearly the Chiefs are the better team coming in here, Rich, but do you think that the cold kind of negates a better team in this, meaning that a team that's a lesser team coming in here kind of gets on equal footing a little bit with it being like
the 1995 Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah.
Like the 08 Miami Dolphins?
No more. We've had the bank robber. We need no more depression.
I'm so sorry.
I think that, man, it's a mindset. I really do. Like, because when you get out there, some guys, man, look, you got those Florida guys, you got those Texas guys, and that's real with some guys. Like, it's literally guys in the NFL who's never played below freezing temperatures before. Remember the 90s Tampa Bay teams, the late 90s, where they had this record where every time they would go to Green Bay, they would get smacked up by the Packers because they were, 0-something in temperatures below 32. That is real with some guys, but it's a mindset. It's a mindset to block out the cold, to block out whatever pain that you're feeling, and really just focus on the game and get your mind right with that. But fortunately, some guys don't have the power to do that. And I think that's why it's important for the Chiefs to get up early. I really do. They gotta knock them out early, Shane.
Yeah, and to that point, we've seen teams come here in the bitter cold and win. I think one of the top two coldest games, and Rich could attest to this, was in 1989, where the Chiefs were trying to make the final wild card spot, and they got up on the San Diego Chargers 13-0. And we were feeling pretty good about ourselves, even though it was 0 degrees. But Billy Joe Tolliver just kept handing off to Marion Butts, and before you know it, the Chargers were able to come back in that game and steal a victory that kept the Chiefs out of the playoffs. Marty Schottenheimer's first year as a head coach in Kansas City. And that was a tough game, and it was cold. And when we got up 13-0 on the Chargers in December of 1989, when it was 0 degrees, you thought it was over. You thought, man, these kids or these South California, San Diego Chargers aren't going to be able to, they're not going to want to come back because it's so cold, but they did. And they just did it by simply turning the ball and Billy Joe Tolliver handing it off to Rich Baldinger giving it to Marion Butts. Do you remember that game, Rich? Do you remember how?
It started at left guard that game. In fact, we practiced. We had to go out to Lawrence that week to practice at their indoor facility, Jayhawks. And coming back, the blizzard came in, took us like 4 hours to drive back from Lawrence. I remember that awful being stuck on the bus. But also, too, that morning, the turf, the field, the cover for the AstroTurf was frozen. They almost didn't get it off. They literally almost had to burn it off because it froze on the ground. There was actually some freezing rain that morning of the game. So I remember it well. But Marty, that was Marty's fault. Creativity and close games would disappear, and we didn't take advantage of opportunities because they were stacking the box at the end of the game. We had probably flea flickers. We had some open things on the outside. But Marty always brought up one good point in this type of weather. The reason why you don't want to throw that ball is the ball becomes so slippery. You know, in the cold weather, you take the moisture out of this pigskin, and it's hard to hold on to it. And the possibility, if you don't put the ball away correctly, you have fumble. So I gave him credit on that one thought, and that'll be a challenge throwing a ball day. You got to learn how to catch the ball in this cold weather. And believe me, a lot of guys who don't like cold weather, they don't like to stick their hands up for the pigskin, especially when Patrick's throwing a fastball. So it'll be interesting today. But listen, guys, the Chiefs, I know one thing, the balance in this offense has to be, you have to make at least an attempt to run the football. I think it opens up all their passing game. Kelsey becomes that much effective on the field. That's why today they need to start, and that's what's going to make them effective if they want to have a chance in the playoffs.
Hey, shout out to the chat going crazy right now. Frank Weeks brings up a point that I had. They had all week to practice in this crap, and I feel him on that. And that leads me to a question I want to ask you, Rich. When you played in the league, I'm pretty sure it was more comfortable being at home in terrible weather than traveling to terrible weather. What's your take on that?
You know, guys, to me, it never really mattered, because once the balloons go up and once the first snap of the football goes and, you know, things begin to happen, your focus is on the game. I mean, it really is. That's why weather, you know, it never really bothered. Whether it be when you're talking about hot and cold, you just start playing the game. And when you were a bad athlete like I was, you did everything you could to lie, cheat, and steal during the game. So when I had guys like, you know, Townsend or Howie Long over me, man, or Reggie White, you didn't have a lot of time to worry about a lot of other things, because you were just hoping to get your block done. So
you played against Reggie White, actually?
Yep.
Like,
oh yeah,
what was that experience
photos out there to prove it.
Strongest man I ever could imagine was a human being that could lift up an 18-wheeler. It was simply an incredible athlete, too, for a man of his size. Could play basketball like you wouldn't believe. Slam dunk a basketball at 300 pounds. I mean, he had about a 30-inch vertical jump for a man of that big. So always when you played against guys like that, like I say, B, and you were a bad athlete like me, I mean, let me tell you something. Look up in the dictionary, bad athletes, and my picture is all over the place.
You're in the National Football League. You can't be a bad athlete.
Right, facts.
So,
you practice against Derek Thomas almost daily. Did you ever?
Well, the best thing about Derek Thomas is he was a good beer drinking buddy, so he never made you look bad in practice. Man. Okay. So you had to have guys like that on your side, or else guys, Marty would go crazy. But 58, you know what was special about him? He could bring it in any weather. And B, I'm waiting for our next DT to show up in the draft. You got any insight to where that next DT might be? Right,
Mike Dana, right?
I mean, in today's game, how big would Derek Thomas be in today's game? This spread offense, rushing the passer? They couldn't pay him enough money, I don't think, for what his ability was. And
to me, Von Miller is a reincarnation of Derek Thomas, the closest thing. He's always paid respect towards DT.
Yep.
But I think that, to answer your question, I think DT will be like Von Miller. I think you could trade those two in and out. Like you put Von Miller with the Chiefs back in the 90s, it will be a similar outcome. Yep. You put DT on with those Broncos teams.
Von is as good or better than DT?
I think they're the same. I think Von might be slightly better, maybe. Y'all know DT. Look, before Patrick, DT was everything. I mean, he still is. He was my favorite Chief. He's one of the reasons why I love football so much. But man, Von Miller, the things that he's done, he's got 2 rings now.
Well,
come on,
guys. The thing about Derek Thomas, I mean, the athlete when I played in the secondary was Albert Lewis. Albert Lewis was a freak. But it was a man that was 60 pounds heavier than him in Derek Thomas that had just as good as change of direction and could do anything physically. And that's what just made him. I remember him coming out. They brought him out to practice. He was late signing that year. And he went against John Alt. John didn't even hit him. John didn't hit him for the first 3 times. This guy made cuts that were simply mind-boggling. And you think about a guy like Tyreek, the way he could change direction. Derek Thomas could change direction like that. That's what made him so scary. Was just simply amazing to me, that the way he could cut inside and do things that you thought, like, how can the body do things like that? But that's what he was, and he brought it every time. So to me, that's why I'm still looking, guys. If you find a Derek Thomas, call me anywhere. I'll go get him for it.
Yeah.
I respect Vaughn, but I think DT's better because of his get off, his bend, and his finish with the tomahawk chop, always getting that ball out, creating the sack strip fumble situations. So I'd put him slightly above Von Miller just for those three.
You
things.
can't go wrong with either or, man. And,
No.
and Joe Delaney, one of my favorite Chiefs running backs. I'm sorry. I see the game, and I see that, you look at Vaughn, he had an older quarterback that, they got it done. They got a ring. DT, he had an older quarterback.
You didn't have Peyton Manning.
he had a better one.
Von Miller had Peyton Manning. Derek Thomas had Steve DeBerg and Dave Craig.
And Joe Montana.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have him as long, but
he didn't. But you can't go wrong with either one, man.
No.
You really can't. And that's my point. They're interchangeable. And Vaughn is the only Bronco, the only one who I will ever respect.
I get this question I was thinking about. So I want to throw this out quickly. Do you put Andy Reid, for what he's done in Philadelphia, amount of playoffs and winning seasons, what he's done in Kansas City, second team, do you put him up there as one of the greatest coaches in the National Football League, if not the greatest? Bill Belichick, Super Bowls, I get it. But he's going to go on his third season. No Tom Brady, probably no playoffs. Just wondering, what do you think?
I'm putting Andy Reid as one of the greatest minds of all time. I'm not putting him top 5 or on the Mount Rushmore or anything like that. But I think his innovation with offense and the way that he's been able to keep up and even set trends in the National Football League still to this day with coaches that he's 2 times older than, coaches that are half of his age. He's still keeping up with these guys and setting new trends, man. And Andy Reid has been so good for so long. He's had some unfortunate circumstances happen in the championship games. We all know the history with the Eagles, and then even some with us.
He's got some shortcomings that have kept him there.
He does, and that's why I can't put him at the top. But he's in that conversation, though, in my opinion, just based on not only his stats, like 100 wins with 2 different teams. Who does that?
That's it. That's my whole point.
That's
You talk innovation, AFC championships, NFC championships. People, they always talk about Super Bowls. I guess it is about Super Bowls, but when you talk about complete changing, and now it just shifts emotions, what he does. Everybody in the world's trying to copy the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs, but haven't been able to do it. So, and
the story's not done.
No,
he can win 2 or 3 more Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes and really redefine his legacy. So I think he needed that Super Bowl win, though. He definitely needed it.
I think that I echo what Brian's saying, but I think what hurts him from getting in the top 5 of all time is those NFC championship losses, as well as his epic playoff collapses here. He is the greatest coach in Kansas City Chiefs history, but when you blow 2 21-3 playoff leads at home, it's inexcusable. I mean, don't get me wrong. He is the greatest head coach of all time in Kansas City, but when you lose that many NFC championship games at home and then you blow 2 21-3 home playoff games, it hurts you from getting in the top 5 of all time. That's just my opinion. What do you think, Clint?
Well, you look at the coaching tree, that echoes a lot about the greatness of Andy Reid. And Noah, we talk about it all the time. And Shane, you mentioned some of the collapses. To have these collapses, you've got to get there. You got to have teams and you got to be in these games to have collapses. A lot of coaches, we don't know. What is Josh McDaniels? How's he in big games? We don't know. We may never know. Andy Reid has had some struggles in big games, but he's always in big games. And I think that just that right there lends itself. And then you look at the coaching tree, you look at what he's done with these quarterbacks. Even, a year with Alex Smith that resulted in 27 touchdown passes, or was it 24 early in the tenure there. So I think that was Matt Castle had the 27. I think Alex Smith's best was 23. So
Clint, these playoff games are coin flips, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Look at Marty Schottenheimer. Look at all of the losses he's had in the playoffs, the painful losses, and not even the ones with just the Chiefs. Look at the ones he had with the Browns.
Mhm.
And then the one he had with the Chargers, the 14-2 team.
Marlon McCree.
That doesn't take away from the fact that Marty Schottenheimer is a great coach. He is.
Just makes me want to hurt some of the players that let him down.
Yeah, exactly. But is he Belichick? No. Belichick is special. 6 rings is unbelievable.
There's Landry, Lombardi, right. Shula, Walsh.
But nobody's going to sit here and say that Marty Schottenheimer is a terrible coach because his kicker missed those field goals or that his running backs couldn't hold on to the ball in Cleveland. Like, nobody's saying that. You're a great coach still. You got to have those championships to solidify your legacy. But still.
But Landry and Walsh all did it with one team. You know, you could put Bill Parcells. He took New England to the Super Bowl. Giants. I'm just saying, if you look at the whole thing in terms of, we've made great points about the innovation. Look what Andy's done with quarterbacking at every location. Look at the amount of wins. You have to at least get to the game. I'm just looking at everything. It's just a different way, I think, of looking at what a head coach means to a team and how do you measure it. Some people look at Super Bowls. Some people look at what he's done in innovation. Some look at records. I just think you throw Andy in there. Maybe he's in the top 5 for what he's done. And like you guys make a great point. It's not over with yet. Yeah. Hopefully Patrick gets a couple more Super Bowls here, you know, which I think he will. And hopefully by then Missouri comes out with a big bowl win. So,
oh, that's a whole nother show. Rich.
I vote for the Super Bowl this year. So just letting everyone know out there, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, I vote for this year. Let's get it done. Got a question here. I want to go to you, Brian. You're kind of our defensive line guy. What do we anticipate from the new defensive player, Danny Shelton, coming on? We got Brandon Williams that's come up, and Shelton's called up. What do we anticipate from him?
Oh, I know Willie Gay and Nick Bolton specifically is loving this. I think Danny Shelton has one job and one job only. Take up 2 guys on the offensive line. Keep Nick Bolton clean. Don't let any of these guys touch him so he can make those tackles in the backfield and get those TFLs and fill the gaps and be free to maneuver around and move about this country in my Southwest Airlines voice. But I think that's Danny Shelton's job. Run stuffer, take up double teams. Maybe he takes up a double team and Chris Jones is in a one-on-one situation. Maybe he takes up a double team and all of a sudden Mike Dana is free for a sack where has a one-on-one situation and can bend the corner and get to the quarterback. But I think that's his job. He won't play 100% of the snaps on defense, probably in those 3rd and short situations or those known run situations. That's what I look for Danny Shelton. Not too much, not too less.
And Shane, before we kind of move on to the Seahawks game, Rich's keys and our predictions, one last question here. Can you comment your thoughts on the kicking game and Dustin Colquitt's comments that it could be the holder that's causing the issue?
Man, I'm never going to pretend to be a part of the media, but I did get to know Dustin Colquitt somewhat when I worked for Warpaint Illustrated, and I interviewed him a few times. He's a good guy. He's a stand-up guy. For him to come out and call out, you know, he even called him a smart aleck on 810 WHB when he was being interviewed about it. It's un-Dustin Colquitt like. I don't see it. I don't see what caused Dustin Colquitt to be that upset. He even called some fans on Twitter who was saying you shouldn't say anything, and Dustin Colquitt snapped back on Twitter to those fans who were calling him out for saying something. It's
normally we theorize CTE, but he's a punter, so I don't.
Yeah, right. So I don't know why Dustin Colquitt did that. I mean, I understand criticism. If Rich Baldinger wants to sit here and say Orlando Brown's missing this block and Patrick Mahomes is getting hit, even though we see it on all 22 footage, Rich Baldinger can say it. But Rich Baldinger isn't going on Twitter saying, "Hey, you listen to me. Don't you call me out. You're the idiot." You know, that's un-Dustin Colquitt like. So it was shocking to see a man of Dustin Colquitt's character to be that critical. I like his insight. I like Dustin Colquitt saying, you know, hey, if he would hold the snap like this, it'd be fine. But just the way Dustin Colquitt went about it was kind of shocking to me.
Yeah.
You put up the tweet earlier. I don't know, me. I have thick skin, and I'm used to being criticized. I am. To me, in my opinion, I see nothing wrong with this tweet at all. We're talking about a great punter, a guy who punted in the league for 16, 17 years, however long it was. I think this is a one professional critiquing another. That I don't see what the issue is with this. I don't see where he's trying to cause a beef. Like, to me, if Dustin Colquitt meant some harm, he would have went in way more. He could have said that totally different. And I think the way that he said that tweet, now I'm not sure about the other interviews and all that stuff that he said about him being a smart aleck. I think that could be crossing the line. But I think that tweet right there is just a fair criticism to me, in my opinion. And I think he's right.
My question is, where's Coach Tobe in all this? If this is such an issue that Dustin Colquitt said, you break down every step of a kick. You've got film. You see everyone from the moment the ball snapped, his approach to the ball, where he's carrying his body, stepping to the ball. You see everything. If this has been an issue all year, then why haven't the Kansas City Chiefs addressed this issue? If your holder isn't getting it right, there's other people who can do this then. But to me, for Dustin Colquitt, if it's such a big issue, I would think that Coach Tobe would have addressed this a long time ago. Is there any better special teams coach in the National Football League than David Tobe right now? I really don't think so. But to have this type of problem going on, if it's been going on all year, it should have been addressed by the Kansas City Chiefs a long time ago.
Very good point, Rich. And we're about to get to your keys. Why do we go to Rich's keys? It's because it says here he's entering his 7th campaign. This article was written back when Rich was playing. He's entering his 7th campaign with the Chiefs and is considered the strongest member of the team. So that's why we go for Rich's keys.
That's why you have cold beer. We used to have cold beer in the locker room. We have someday. Hey guys, let's begin on the offensive side of the ball. How about a frozen stampede? Let's get it going. Let's get the run game going. I want to get Pacheco out there in this cold weather, teach him how to run with the ball, lower pads. Don't cause fumbles, no turnovers, but let's control the line of scrimmage. Let's set the tempo. We all know what it means for this offense. You give that balance, and guess what? Patrick is a nightmare for any defense. On the other side, let's make Geno hold the ball. If there's ever an issue with this quarterback, 9 years in the league, 4 different teams, it's when he's got to hold on to the ball, make an adjustment. You're either going to get a sack or you're going to get an interception. That was his problem when he was with the Jets. That's what's caused him to move on. Let's do that today defensively. I think we get some turnovers. And how about if we win that turnover battle? You know, right now, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs and the points that they've given up because of turnovers, they're at 74 points they've given up. That's 3rd worst in the NFL.
Terrible.
It will haunt you in the playoffs. You will lose. You will bow out in the playoffs because of that. So hopefully the Chiefs address that today. Let's win that turnover battle because maybe the quarterback of Seattle really isn't as good as everybody thinks he is.
Yeah, that's the key.
Ours is we go here to Chiefs host the Seahawks today. If they win, Mahomes will have guided Kansas City to 16 straight wins against NFC teams. That would set the record for most consecutive interconference wins by one quarterback and one team since the NFL merger in 1970.
That's crazy. And you know what? Patrick Mahomes has like 1 million of these stats, man.
Yes.
1 million. It's 1,000,001 now. But man, Rich, you just hit it though. The key to this thing is these turnovers. If the Chiefs don't have these stupid turnovers the past couple against the Bengals, against Denver. And against the Texans, we're looking at this team completely different. If Travis Kelce doesn't fumble on the way to a Chiefs extending their lead to maybe 10 or 14, because the Chiefs were driving the ball at the time. The Chiefs dismantle the Bengals, walk out of there with a W. They dismantled the Denver Broncos 27-0. They were doing that at the time when Patrick started to throw those interceptions. And then the game changed. And then last week, Patrick was back in MVP form. Those turnovers really kept the Texans in the game, and the penalties on those 3rd and longs. The Chiefs erased those mistakes, and you're looking at blowouts instead of these close games that we've been seeing lately. So you hit it, Rich. Those turnovers, man, you can do it against bad teams and win. Not in the playoffs. You can't.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing good, too, in these last couple of games. Brian, you were talking about Danny Shelton coming back and Brandon Williams. What this gives you inside in the middle, when you're going to play Cincinnati or whether you're going to play Buffalo, you got to spy either one of those quarterbacks, Burrows and Josh Allen. You don't spy them. They're running. They're going to get first downs. When you are able to control the line of scrimmage with 4, and now your linebackers are freed up to go wherever they want or keep their eyes, or it might be a corner, it might be a safety. It now allows them to not get involved in contact. They get a free run to the quarterback. You make those tackles, And against a guy like a Josh Allen or a Burrows, if you're not there to keep them in the box, you'll lose the football game. So that's why seeing Danny Shelton finally getting a chance and also Brandon Williams getting in there, I think that rotation, it helps you where you can control that line. I just think of Nebraska in their great days here in the front four. When they can do that, it makes linebacker and it makes your coverage so much better against a mobile quarterback.
Well, guys, it's time to get to our predictions here. If you're just walking in Arrowhead right now, you probably aren't watching because you've got gloves on. You can't use the fingers to scroll up and down. So if you are and you happen to be in here, we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone for joining us here today. When we think about predictions, you think about this game. I'm a nostalgic person. I like to hearken back to the past. And today, Shane, Brian, Noah, Rich, I'm hearkening back to Christmas Eve, 1995. The Chiefs held the Seattle Seahawks that day to just 26 yards rushing, including our good friend Chris Warren, who was an all-pro back for the Seahawks. I don't think the Chiefs are going to quite do that today. And the score is not going to be 26-3, but we're going to say 26-13. Patrick Mahomes, after today, guys, will have only one last NFL team to beat to have run the table. Two, if you count the team he's currently playing for. Hopefully that ever becomes an issue. The Vikings are the last team after today the Chiefs will have to beat for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, because he didn't play in 19.
Yeah. Right. So that'll be it. 26-13, Noah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got this. I think whether the Chiefs played the 0-7 undefeated Patriots till this last game in the Super Bowl or the Lions team that went 0-16, I think each score is 28-27. They just play every team the same, no matter whether it's the 0-7 Patriots, the 0-16 Lions. I've got the Chiefs coming out with the victory today. 28-27, DK Metcalf, Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker go crazy. Bucker misses a field goal somewhere in there to extend the lead. So it's only a 1-point victory for our Chiefs today. What about you, Shane?
I think if Andy Reid coaches it old school, like to make Joe Pendry proud, we're going to run the football. We're going to take advantage of this cold weather. We're going to use Orlando Brown's positive traits, which is run blocking. The Chiefs will go in and they will win an ugly game 17-10. But my fear is Andy Reid will be Andy Reid, and he'll get down to the inside the 5-yard line and try to throw a reverse flea flicker to tight end eligible Nick Allegretti, and that could cost the Chiefs into a tie. I'm torn between a tie and the Chiefs winning by 7, but since it's Christmas, I'm going to go the Chiefs win 17-10. What do you say, Brian?
Woo!
Well, I like to go back in the time machine too, like Clint does, and I'll go back to my very first Chiefs game, the very first time that my eyes saw the beautiful Arrowhead Stadium was January 2nd, 1994. A young 8-year-old Brian was surprised with these Chiefs tickets by my Uncle Ronnie. It was a cold, rainy, cold day where Joe Montana was out slinging it. Albert Lewis was out blocking punts like he always does, and the Seahawks had those ugly gray and regular blue uniforms.
Blasphemy! I love those.
Blasphemy.
Of course you would. The Seahawks don't have a great history of uniforms. Be that as it may, the Chiefs uniforms are superior. We'll get into that another day, but we'll just rewind the clock and say that the Chiefs will win 34-24, just as they did on that faithful January 2nd day of 1994.
30 points is a lot for a home game.
Against Rick
And
Meyer.
you were 8 years old in 1994, Brian. Please, let's not talk about age right now, man.
I'm sorry, my bad. I was going to be 9 later on that year if that makes you feel a little better. But
that's good. Guys, I'll tell you what, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take care of business. Listen, Seattle the last 5 weeks has not been able to run the football. It's proved costly for Geno Smith. Look for Coach Spagnuolo today to come up with those exotic blitzes I'm talking about. I think they're going to get these on film today to show the rest of the AFC that what you're going to have to look at for the Kansas City Chiefs going into the playoffs. I think we take care of business. The run game is going to be positive. I think we'll do things the right way and look for us to get some turnovers today. I think the blitzes are going to force us. We're finally going to get some picks. We need to improve that side of the defense. The secondary is going to step up. You wait and see. Sometimes when you're young, you're dumb for a while. Then all of a sudden, those 2 brain cells start working really good for you. I think for the secondary, today's going to be the game. I'm looking at a 28-7 victory day for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
Well, there you have it, guys. Kingdom Kickoff here. It has been tremendous. We wish everyone out there, all of Chiefs Kingdom and beyond, a very Merry Christmas. Why am I an elf here?
It fit. You had the most room over your head, so I had to do it. So from Brian B. Shining Hot 103 Jam, Shane Williams, Shaggy Shane Entertainment, Rich, Myself and Clint.
Merry
the Smart TV
Christmas!
Media,
What size is
Hey!
that hat to fit on my head? What is that, a 4X Santa Claus hat to get on my head?
We took it off. No worries. It's okay.
Go
Chiefs. Andy Reid, best coach in the NFL, man.
You heard it here. You heard it from Rich. Better than Belichick. Andy Reid.